I came to you in weakness and fear and trembling, so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God. Those words we heard in the second reading today from St. Paul. And there's something about us in those very words. God has given us all talents, He's given us all intelligence and opportunities, and yet we must admit that we all have weaknesses, and that's where we're much like St. Paul. The truth is, we all have weaknesses. And St. Paul's words to us are saying that with the power of God, we can overcome those weaknesses, and only in the power of God. There's a story of Isaac Perlman, a violinist, a famous violinist, who in 2001 was performing at a concert hall in New York City. And if you've ever seen Perlman, he suffered from polio when he was a child, and he walks with braces on each leg and with the assistance of 2 crutches. And so when he comes out onto the stage, he walks across very slowly, very painfully, and yet majestically to go to his place. And when he arrives at his chair, he sits down, puts the crutches on the floor, he unfastens the clasps on the braces on his legs, puts one foot back behind him and one forward, picks up his violin, nods to the conductor, and begins to play. Well, one night when he was performing, he had only played a few measures, and suddenly one of the strings on the violin broke. They said that it was like, when it snapped, it was like a gun shooting across the auditorium. And there he was. What could he do? Some thought, well, he's going to have to get up and walk back and fix the violin, or he's going to have to get another violin from someone. But he didn't move. And suddenly he just nodded to the conductor and began to play. Now, you and I know that we could never play a symphonic piece on 3-string violin. But he began to play, and with such precision and with such power and beauty like they had never heard before. You could see him almost recomposing as he played. The audience sat there stunned, listening to the beautiful music he was performing with 3 strings. We know that's not possible, but with the power of God, it's possible. When he was finished, the audience stood and they applauded and applauded tremendously, acknowledging the wonderful thing that he had just performed. And then he stopped the crowd and he said, artists, he said, it seems to me that an artist's task is to make music with what you have left. When you have a crisis, make music with what you have left. I think that's a great line for us. If we are feeling, for example, old right now, or ill, or depressed, or abandoned, or grieving, or hurt in some way or another, we might wonder how we can go on. That line, make music with what you have left, certainly rings out to us. It's what St. Paul is saying. When I look at the marvelous fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, the many people I've known over the years who are a part of that fellowship, they too knew their weakness, but one day at a time, and with the help of others and the help of God, they could overcome it. They could do that by helping each other because they know what it's like. Or how many times people lose a loved one in death, and grief is very serious and it hurts. What do many people do? They go out to other people who have experienced that same thing, and they can extend their compassion and their help because they've been there, they know what it's like. Or people in an economic crisis oftentimes will go out and reach out to other people in need because they know what it's like. And I think that's so important for us to hear that message, that make music with what you have left. If we do feel that we don't have much left, we do with the power of God. And I think that's the great message for us today. With the power of God, all things can be accomplished. Jesus says in the gospel that you are the light of the world, and we must let our light shine before others, that God may see our good deeds, that they may see our good deeds and follow in the same path. We're often asked to do something, and sometimes at first we say, well, I don't know how much more I can do. Well, with the power of God, we can. Or if we're struggling with something in our life that we can't change personally, with the power of God, all things are possible. And so we rely upon him. In the second collection today, we will take up a collection for the church in Latin America, our brothers and sisters who have much less fortunate than we are and who suffer from poverty and great need. And if 1 million Catholics just help a little bit, they can be helped a lot. And so there's so many opportunities that we have, and we ask the Lord to help us to make music with what we have left if we feel that we're lacking in something. And the power of God will give us the help that we need to do what we need to accomplish.